Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Morning, Ladder. Morning, Adrian. Morning, Diamond. Morning, Jeff. Morning, Themba. Happy Monday. Another week of utter chaos. Well, starting off today with utter chaos anyway, with the pound. We'll see what happens with that. That'll be interesting. Where should I start? Right, quick recap of last week. Last week was obviously very, very good. Mainly due to that big 10% day I had, morning Stevie, which was a nice DAX short on the news, which went mental. So that was almost half the month's profit in one trade, which was fantastic. So that's really helped this month. Friday, I didn't do a massive amount on Friday. I think all scalping basically, as you can see. Lots of scalping actually. DAX Dow mainly on Friday. Just did lots and lots of DAX Dow scalps in the afternoon. Very little FX stuff at the minute. That's not even a trade. And I closed out some, I did close out some Forex as well. All Dow. All Dow. But yeah, loads of Dow scalps basically on Friday to make up all that profit really. It's just, I think, I'm not sure if I went through all this, but where are we? It's all in here. Shorting the Dow basically at the open, so really easy. Open, we had a massive push up. That was the opening candle. We had a massive push up after the open, and I scalped long here. You see, I took a long break there, and I got out there. And then I waited to see what obviously happened. It completely reversed that. So I jumped in short, added, got stopped out, added again, got out, added again, got out, and just kept shorting it after that massive bear signal. Couldn't get a much bigger bearish engulfing than that. It's perfect. So yeah, shorted all that. And then I had a couple of failed shorts there. That was it. Other than that, the only FX that I closed out on Friday was a little bit of pound. So I had this pound aggressive drawdown control position on. Oops. Here. So I had two aggressive positions on this pound US, which stopped out. I can't believe I did this. I wasn't, obviously, at the moment, it's so turbulent, the pound, you can't tell from 1 second to the other which way it's going to go. It's an absolute mess. So I'm very, very cautious with all the aggressive positions that I'm putting on this. I'm just over cautious at the moment because I just don't want to get caught the wrong side of it and it become one of those things that just chops away your profit. So I put a stop on it and I got stopped out there and just before it collapsed back down again. So unfortunately, if I hadn't got stopped out on that, I think my break even was somewhere around here. So I think I would have been pretty much at an opportunity to completely get out of the pound US on Friday, but I'm lucky there. I got another position on it here, which I added, which was on a break of that low, which I added on Friday, and it didn't go anywhere. And I added another position on this morning. As we pushed up this morning on the news of the Chancellor's announcement, I put another aggressive position on there. Very, very tight stop on it here. So this position here is entry was on this bearish engulfing, stop just above it. This stop here is for that aggressive position there. So I got two aggressive positions back on again. Looking for volatility, basically. So initially this morning, what I'm looking for is them to come down and get this gap fill done. If that happens, I've got an opportunity to get out and get some drawdown control done ahead of the announcement from the Chancellor this morning. So we'll see what happens at the open. But other than that, Aussie CAD, I closed out at break even. Again, I don't like this one. This Aussie CAD was a counter trend scalp based on the 4 hour. extension here. So I got in with a position there. I added second position there. It's not going anywhere. And I thought, if this doesn't break on Friday, I don't want to be in it, because likelihood is we're going to get a trend continuation, and it's slammed back down. So I got out a break even on it, and now we're sitting back down at the lows. So obviously it was a very risky one, counter trend. So that was it. So that made up 1.5% on Friday. So this morning I've had an aggressive control, drawdown control position, which stopped out already on pound US. It's M5 entry, which was here somewhere. Yeah, so as we pushed up, I put stop above the high. As we pulled back down, I got in. As we pulled back down on this candle, they took me out and then reversed. So I got in on the reversal again. So I re-added it basically. And obviously I might stop out on this one as well. Pound yen RSI extension. So that's where I am at the moment. Pound US, Pound Swiss, Euro Swiss, and Aussie New Zealand. Nothing particularly worrying at all on any of it. It's all just flip-flopping around at the minute. Obviously apart from Pound US, which is all over the place. Morning, Steve, from cloudy Spain. It's absolutely hacking down with rain in the UK. Floods. Right, news. Let's look at the news. Market statement. Sorry, one sec. I'm just watching the DAX open. So the DAX this morning, we got a gap fill to the downside to do, potentially, here. So I'm just watching to see where we open. We've got 4 minutes left on the 5-minute candle. I just want to see where we open. I'm not going to take a trade on here on this account. Don't do that anymore. But I will take one on the funded this morning. I just want to see how this opens. I get the feeling today, if you look at the DAX, obviously we had this huge bull day Thursday. Friday we closed bearish, didn't quite get halfway through this candle even. So it wasn't a particularly strong bearish reversal. We've got earnings starting to come out this week. So it's going to start to get a little bit busy on the indices with volatility. So we could well have a push starting. So today, we've obviously got a low there, higher low. So the potential now is for us to follow on from this move and put in a higher high. So targeting that high there, which is basically the double top we did on Friday. So looking for a retest of that level and potentially a break today. Alternatively, obviously, this was the pullback, and we are just going to continue the bearish move, one or the other. Don't know which. We'll find out. See which way the market decides to go this morning. But there's plenty of targets to the upside. Obviously, we've got this massive bearish reversal that we had, which sold off on Friday afternoon, and then it just continued to trickle down. So there's a lot of, retest of that high there is a very nice, tempting target this morning. But we'll see where we go at the open. It's a big old bullish move so far. So 2 minutes in. Pound's pushing this morning as well at the open. We'll have a look at the news in a sec. I just want to get this trade on. 1 minute left on this candle. Big push on the pound at the open. I couldn't find out what time the news is today. Jeremy Hunt is going to be announcing all the information about the new fiscal policy this morning. So I wasn't sure what time it was. I couldn't find anything. The closest thing I found was on the BBC News website, which said it's going to be this morning. So I'm not sure they've released their actual time. And then he's talking in the House of Commons, and obviously the Labour Party will rip into him in the House of Commons later. So we could get some decent volatility this morning. We should get some decent volatility on the pound this morning. Which way it's going to go, though, I haven't got a clue. Hence me trying to get these aggressive positions on and try and get a little flatter on the pound US if I can. But we'll see what time that is kicking off. 20 seconds left on this opening balance. Oh, I hate it when it closes up the highs. I just want to hit the long button on this, basically. So I'm either going to take an extension of that, or if we pull back down into this area, take a long down here as well, or both. Draw my opening ranges in, has it, for some reason? I'm looking, basically watching this wick. I'm looking for a pullback into here. Otherwise, we're going to have a whacking great propulsion gap put in here off of this accumulation. So I'm looking to see if they can test this wick. If they can retest this wick, I'll take a long there, somewhere around there. And then hopefully we'll get a push back to the upside. What I don't want them to do is leave a whacking great propulsion gap in there, ideally. We'll see. We've got 2 minutes left on this candle. Here we go. Okay, so we've got a propulsion gap about to go in here. So we've got a minute left on this candle yet. Might not even do it. So if we get down and retest this area here, That's my long this morning. And then I'll add above there, or just jump in above there if it just decides to go. Big, strong opening move this morning. We'll have a look at the news in a sec. Come on, make your mind up. 30 seconds. Pound's coming back down as well again. Very similar movement going in on the pound US and the DAX this morning. Okay. This is a retest of that reversal alert. So let's hope we get a continuation back down into here. Doesn't look like it wants to get down there. I really want to hit the buy button on this, but I'm not going to. While this is still here, there's a good chance we might muck about, come and retest it and springboard off of it. So I'm not just going to hit the buy buttons for buy's sake. We're either going to break and go, or retest and go, or obviously the alternative is we actually come down and go for the gap fill this morning. So after that bull candle, looks like it wants to go long. Okay. Okay. Gaps filled. Complete retracement. Looks like it's going to go for the gap fill. Ooh, tricky open that. I'm going to leave that order intact up there at the highs. Be interested to see how this candle closes this morning. So this is basically, we're sitting in the chop. Now, so if this candle, this opening cash balance was the direction for the morning, we should see buyers really stepping in here. If not, I think we're probably going to come down and head for that gap fill. Bit undecided at the minute. So we've just basically gone nowhere in the first 15. Hmm. Okay. So that's first 15 minutes in. Very tricky to know whether this is a buy or a sell here. Basically, we've not quite put a new low in, but I would say this is probably more of a buy from down here. We'll take a quick buy down here. So looking for the buyers to step in here and just push us back up for a breakout this morning. Either that or we're going to retrace, test that wick and drop again. Either way. You notice I'm going in fairly high risk on this. This is the funded account. I withdrew on Friday, so I'm just looking to try and get some profit in the bank fast with high risk. A minute. See if I can just stick 2-3% in one trade. Pushing up again on the pound. Buys for pound US dollar, maybe. Could be. I don't know. Whatever you do with the pound US dollar anytime this morning is just a pure gamble. It's a 50-50. The budget is being announced this morning, so it would go either way. That's a stop out. By the looks of things. He's very twitchy this morning. I suspect, thinking about it, we're probably hanging around until we get some news coming out on the pound, maybe this morning. Might be a bit of a choppy session. I'm only going to take this one trade anyway. Very tricky this morning. Subusiso, who am I funded with? This is E8. I'm also funded with my Forex funds. This is my E8 account. It should give it away, look. Mind you, if you don't know who E8 are, then that wouldn't give it anyway, would it? Anything away, would it? E8 is fast becoming one of the best prop firms out there, along with my Forex funds. Stop out. Okay. Leave that for the morning. Right, so let's have a look at news. Right, so we've got today, obviously the main news this morning is the Chancellor's going to be delivering his mid-term fiscal plan this morning. We don't know the time. Hopefully there'll be some information coming out about exactly what time that's coming out. But at the moment, we don't know. So basically, this is the fiscal plan that was forecast to be released at the end of November. Then it was brought back by Quasi to the end of October because everybody was moaning about it, and obviously the market went mental. Oh no, should I try a short? That scat film's too late. Missed it. Never mind. So obviously this is obviously to do with all the instability that we've had in the market, this huge collapse, and then the Bank of England bailout, and the Bank of England not doing the bailout, and now they've basically brought forward the fiscal policy statement that they were going to do at the end of October to today. Basically, they say a new chancellor got installed on Friday, which is Jeremy Hunt. He's basically been working solidly all weekend. on the new plan, and he's going to release it today. So basically, this is what we wanted. We want the markets need to know what the hell are you doing to get yourself out of the situation that you're in. And the market is either going to go like that or like that when they hear. Don't know which, no idea. Obviously, unless he comes out with something, if he comes out today with just a U-turn, so just undoing everything that caused that, and a complete U-turn, which is highly, highly bullish for US economy, UK economy, I suspect what we're going to get is a continuation business as usual. So we will probably get some whipsawing. We may get a massive spike. I have no idea. You can't tell what's going to happen with it because nobody knows what's going to be said. So it's going to go one way or the other. But obviously, this is a massive bullish pair, pound US, and whatever they do, it's not really going to be much stronger than what the US is doing at the moment anyway. So I suspect it's going to be continuation to the downside. Whether or not this goes like that for 3 or 4 days, don't know. The market will do what the market wants to do. And it depends how much they like it, how much it's going to impact the sovereign debt. There's so many factors that go into it, but you've just got to be aware, obviously, we are going to have volatility this morning when that is announced. So we've got that this morning. And then this afternoon, he's going into Parliament and he will be questioned by the opposition as to what he's doing, why he's doing it, all that sort of stuff. So there could be more coming out of that, which will upset the markets as well. And then 1:30 this afternoon, we've got the manufacturing index for the US. So that could be a big one as well. And then CPI for New Zealand dollar overnight. And then Aussie dollar tomorrow morning, we've got their monetary policy meeting minutes. Again, that could be some impactive statements come out in that, which is going to affect the Aussie. We got CPI, so it's our inflation figures coming out on Wednesday morning, first thing. Then we've got the Canadian CPI, and then we've got unemployment for Aussie and fully fed. So the main focus of the week is preloaded to the front end this week. So it's all about today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Mainly Wednesday. Wednesday's the big day. So it's all the CPI figures, which is going to be the big ones. So there's going to be loads of volatility today off of the pound. We've got the New Zealand dollar, pound, and Canadian CPI being released over the period of a couple of days as well. So big days of volatility ahead, and then it all sort of calms down towards the end of the week. So we'll see what happens today, but the main thing the market's going to be waiting for is that pound. I was so tempted to stick a sell stop under there. Wrong trade this morning. Never mind. Just cancel that pending on. So that's the news this morning, today, or rather this week. So there's not a lot of news, but it's all very, very high impact news. Over the weekend, we didn't have an awful lot. Obviously, there's a load more shelling on Ukraine, so it's all starting to escalate over there. Kuroda talking about inflation. That's nothing unusual. Apart from that, there's not a lot else but bearish sentiment coming out about the pound. And it's basically business as usual, really. Nothing over the weekend has been that impactive, I don't think. So it's all about this morning. So going to be waiting to see what happens with the pound. It's obviously having a bit of a negative reaction at the open, but this is, like I said, posted in the Telegram group this morning when I took this aggressive position. This was the announcement that he's going to change. He's going to be doing the fiscal policy this morning, which is a knee-jerk reaction. There's no reason for the pound to strengthen just because he's going to say something. The pound will strengthen or weaken when he says something. So this is just the undoing of it, which is partly why I wanted to get this position on, because I was expecting just to return to origin on this and potentially a gap fill back down to here. So okay, so we just basically pretty much done a gap fill on that. if this is going to chop around this morning, this is potentially where we might go long from. Morning, Jane. But yeah, either way, I mean, if you haven't got any positions on any pound pairs at the moment, don't. I mean, it's up to you if you want to take them. Anything you take this morning looks good. $26 pips as well. I'm just going to try a quick long. If we're going to go into a holding pattern this morning, all the breakout longs have all just been taken out down here. So we might find there's quite a lot of buying. I mean, one long there. Quite a lot of buying coming in now, back up to that range. If not, obviously it's just going to pull back and drop. I've got a trailing stop running on this of 5 points. So it will go in, it will start trading very quick. There we go, already in trading. Oh, that's way too tight. That's not set up right. Oh, God. I'm having one of those mornings again. Oh, this E8 account does my head in. Let me just turn that off. Miss the move now. I hate this. The E8, it's one of those brokers where they do everything in thousands, and it really throws me off because all other brokers I've got are, you know, 400s, 800s. So you have to multiply everything by 10, and I can never work out, because the spread is different, what I should have with trading stops and things. That's way too tight. I set the EA way too tight on that. It should be about 1500, shouldn't it? Richard just got in buys on GU. I'd be worried. I mean, obviously, if you're using a stop, that's fine. Obviously, you'll either get stopped out or it will fly. You know, it's like I said, it's a coin flip this morning, basically. But if you're not using stop, I wouldn't enter any positions this morning, because it's going to go either up or down fast at some point this morning. So it literally is a red or black job at the minute. Where's my trade gone? What is going on with this thing this morning? Oh my God. So it's me. I had my trading stop on again. Do you know what? I'm not playing this morning. It's not. My head's not in the right space for this morning. I forgot to turn the trading stop off again, so I just got stopped out again. Right, got that. I like it long up to there, but I'm obviously not able to take a trade this morning. Something is disconnected between my finger, my software, and my brain. So I'm not going to get involved. I'll have a go later on. So yeah, pound this morning, I wouldn't bother necessarily getting into a position. If you're using a stop on it, you know, that's absolutely fine. If that thing goes to the top in 3 candles, I will be absolutely livid, because that'd be 6% profit. Anyway, just be prepared. I might swear. With the news coming out, obviously, there's 2 scenarios that are going to play out with the pound this morning that I see. At the moment, we are kind of contracting, and as you would expect, the market is going to. The problem is between the keyboard and the chair. Exactly. Some days you just have to go, this isn't working, And you just need to just step away and go, no, I can't do it. It's just, one of those fat fingers moments this morning. Apart from having the wrong direction on the first trade, but that doesn't matter. That can be corrected. So yeah, we're contracting. And this morning's announcement, basically, if you look at where we are, so look at the grand scheme of things. The market wasn't happy with the pound US dollar. Yeah, US dollar weak, pound strong, obviously coming down. We came down to here as we were just bumbling along very nicely in a downtrend, and then they announced the mini budget. The entire market went, you're mental. And then the Bank of England went, don't worry, we'll sort that out. And then the Bank of England went, actually, no, we're not going to bail you out. And look exactly where we are now. Yeah, exactly where we left off before all this. So wipe this off. Didn't happen. Okay, we're back to square one. We've reset. Yeah. Yeah, we are exactly where we were before the mini budget announcement. So today, one of two things is going to happen. Jeremy Hunt is going to come out and announce some miraculous plan to get the UK out of the mess, unlikely, and we're going to go skyrocketing, or he's going to announce that we're in a mess and it's going to be very tough times ahead, and this is what we're going to do to get over them. Sorry, everybody, it's not going to be good. And it's going to do that. But it's not going to do that like this. It's just going to start continuing to move down. Yeah, so normal price action. No idea which of them is going to happen. So any trade you take this morning, if you are trying to get into one of those positions, and there's nothing wrong with this, you've got a 50-50 shot of it working every time. You saw me last week, I made 10% on one trade. I went short, I took a gamble on the DAX dropping, and it did when news came out. There's nothing wrong with that. Get yourself into a position, but obviously make sure that you've got a stop. So if you're going long, look at these lows, potentially those lows, get into a position. If Jeremy rallies the market, fantastic. If he doesn't, not a problem. These are the types of trades where you can make a lot of money very, very, very quickly. If you don't use a stop, if you're trying to get into a position, if you believe that the pound US dollar should be a long position and you're trying to get into a position trade on it and it goes against you, there's every chance you're not going to get out of that for quite a while. So you've got to be very, very careful with any entries that you take this morning on any pound pair. The other option, the other problem you're going to have this morning is obviously whipsawing. We know there's liquidity there on everybody that went short. I'm one of them. We know there's liquidity down here. Everybody that saw the gap up and longed it this morning, it pushed up. So there are either stops under there or there's stops under there. So there's two liquidity pools sitting there to the downside, and there's one liquidity pool sitting there to the upside. And obviously there's the highs up here as well from last week. So, there's every opportunity that they might push up while he's talking and then drop back down while he's talking and then bring it back and then decide to go where they want to. Just take everybody's liquidity, do a double-ended stop hunt, reset, and then go wherever they want. So just be careful this morning. As I say, we've got no timings on this thing as far as I'm aware at the moment. I'll be having this up on my other monitor, which I usually do. And, I'll see the red start to flow in on this and I'll get alerts coming up on my desktop and I'll know when he's starting to talk. But I'm going to put the BBC News channel on this morning as well, because they'll be covering it live, obviously, as it unfolds. So I'm not going to look. Right. So that's pound this morning. That's the main thing we need to be worried about. And obviously, we've got no other news today, apart from obviously CPI aftermarket close tonight. And then obviously, we've got monetary policy for Aussie tomorrow morning. So Australasian, the Asian session, we'll likely see some big moves in the Asian session tonight as well. So anything you've got on Aussie, New Zealand's, or potentially on yen pairs, you're likely to get an awful lot of movement on the overnight session in Asia. The market's just completely whippy so far this morning, though. Look, just massive wick, massive wick, massive wick. Not going to go anywhere until Jeremy spoke. ADRs, we've got nothing. Obviously, the weeklies, we've got nothing. There's monthlies, which have already been hit. We're on the 17th of the month now, so we're halfway through the month. Aussie, New Zealand, I'm already in. No, I was in. I'm out, aren't I? No, I'm in. I'm in this one, yeah. So I've got my long on Aussie, New Zealand. We're on our sort of third day now, sideways, gone nowhere. So I've got my long position on this. Nothing's obviously going to move on this today. It's all going to happen tomorrow. So New Zealand and Aussie news. Looking for continuation long on the trend, basically. Aussie obviously has been weak. So it depends what happens with the New Zealand dollar news, which comes out tonight with their CPI figures. So quite often, if we get bullish CPI figures, obviously the New Zealand will become bullish. If it's bearish, New Zealand will become bearish. So one or the other is going to happen, isn't it? I don't know. It's out of my control. But if it pushes down and we get an ADR hit on it down towards the lows, then obviously I'll grab another position long on it. But if it does come down and we start to get this kind of price action, be slightly worried that we are looking at a reversal on this and more weakness on the Aussie dollar, because obviously the Aussie has been weak. They have mucked about with their interest rates. They haven't put them up by the same rate as everybody else has, as we found out last week. And that's obviously had that detrimental effect on the Aussie. Whether it's long term or not, we'll see. It really depends, what comes out in the meeting minutes as well. So it's all going to be happening, and we will know one way or the other basically tomorrow morning what's going on with the Aussie pairs. So that one obviously is a monthly, and we've got a couple of other monthlies in there as well, the pounds mainly, and obviously we've got US dollar CAD as well. So the pound pairs, we know why that's moving hard, and the US dollar CAD, obviously that hit its monthly based on that, which was obviously the news last week. So it's not really a monthly hit for any other reason than it was a news spike. So kind of discount that one a little bit. So there's nothing to look at on ADRs this morning. I doubt we're going to get a lot of movement this morning until the news has come out as to what Jeremy Hunt's doing as well. In fact, what I might do is just stick that up on my other monitor, just in case. He starts to talk. Right. So RSIs, with obviously the main thing we've got is this US dollar yen. Now the yen, we had a lot of news on over the weekend. The usual stuff though, monetary policy affects exchange, just like talk. It's the same sort of stuff we keep getting coming out of Japan. Expect the Bank of Japan to try and achieve a price target in a stable, sustainable manner. Bank to decide on monetary policy, blah, 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 blah. I'm not doing anything. Inflation will fall below 2%. Yeah, you're doing really well on that. That's great, but your currency's stuffed. So there's nothing coming out that says anything other than business as usual after that intervention. So we had the intervention here, which the market just went, yeah, and now we're flying again. So this is massively extended, really, really extended. So it's a lovely looking short opportunity. We had this big, strong push again on Friday last week, and we're just sitting up there. So it looks great for some kind of pullback, but obviously you are fighting a massive trend here with strong US dollar and nobody having any faith whatsoever in the yen. So it's a very risky one, although it is massively extended. And if you want to take it on short time frames, yeah, you get, you just had a reversal alert there this morning. Look, you're going to get some kind of move down, but you've just got to make sure that you're on it fast, because when you get into profit on it, you want to be getting to break even fairly quick in case you get that big spike up. Same as I was doing with the Aussie New Zealand, yeah. So my Aussie New Zealand trade I got out of, sorry, not the Aussie New Zealand, the Brain, Aussie CAD. This is massive counter trend trade. I saw we weren't going anywhere, and I decided when we got into profit on it to get a break even on it in case you get that move against you with the trend, which I did, and I'm out, and I'm happy I'm out. So you've got to do that same sort of thing. So if you're going to take a short on this because of the extension on the 4 hour, you've got a good potential drop. Could be an ADR or two. Yeah, look at what happened last time we were up here. Yeah, that's the sort of drop I would expect. Profit take. Yeah, push, profit take, continuation. Obviously, we had the intervention in the middle. So, but that's what I'd be looking for. At least a drop down to there, if not there, potentially all the way back down and retest there. So there's lots and lots of downside on it. But there is also the opportunity for this to just go into some kind of accumulation. Yeah. And then RSI to drop, and then it to go into another push. So be very careful with it. But that is massively extended on the 4 hour. So when we get up into these 90s, I love it. And that's where we were. We were 94, which is the highest point. Yeah, exactly where we were before that happened. So it's a very high probability trade. I'm just not getting into any yens at the minute. I just can't bring myself to trade it because it's just too weak. And if I was going to get into it, as I said last week, I would be looking to take shorts. Just based on the fact that if Kuroda does come out and intervene again, that's what we're going to get. But so take your pick on that. Pound yen, we've got extensions on that as well. Obviously, pound, anything you take on the pound this morning is a bit of a gamble, but we're just coming up to a very nice area. So if we do put in a double top up there, or come and sweep that and push back down again, potentially that's a pretty good one. But that's going to be based on pound weakness rather than anything else. US dollar yen just hit a monthly level, did it? Blimey, that's really old. Yeah. So 147, 635, we've exceeded now. But yeah, if you want to take a short, worth a shot. But don't expect look at this, how parabolic this is. These parabolic moves, when they continue, you get an accumulation. So you get symmetrical triangles forming and continuations. Yeah, that's what I'm saying to be wary of, and that will unfold. With the 4 hour RSI just dipping down and the price going sideways. But there's no fundamental reason for that to happen at the moment, unless Bank of Japan intervenes. But yeah, I like it. I like it short. I definitely like it short up there. I'm not going to take it myself, but I like it because it's so extended. So yeah. Pound yen, not interested in anything on that, or the pound odd this morning. Pound odd, again, we got the Australian dollar massively weak at the minute. That could all change with the monetary policy minutes tomorrow. Really like that as a short based on pound weakness, but obviously we need to know what's going to happen this morning. So again, it's a nice little short. We had the entry signal was triggered kind of on this candle. So anywhere when this started to ball back down, you'd have got reverse alerts on M5 and M15 in there. The trade's kind of played out really, but very, very, very extended. Well, I say very extended, was very, very extended, and now it's not quite as extended. So, but yeah, looks good as a short. Hasn't quite come up and touched that high just yet. Or has it? Not quite. but close as damn it, you know. So if we come up and take that out and then break back down below and get a reversal alert, potentially a good signal. Chances are, though, if we are going to push up to there, the reversal alert is going to be caused by Jeremy Hunt's speech, and it's just going to go so fast you're not going to get into it. So, you know, any of these pounds, if regardless of what your bias is, if you're going to get into them, you need to get into them ahead of the news and try and get, you know, and that's what I did with that DAX trade that made me that 10% last week. I was in and I'd added, and my stops were very, very small. So I had 2 positions on with a break even there, and then the news came out. So you don't get that whipsaw. Euro yen, also very, very extended. So the euro, we've got 2 levels. This is the level we were looking at last week. It chopped around. It did break below, but it was kind of an outside bar, and outside bars are very different. You know, they're kind of an indecision. They should be taken, you know, when you look at an outside bar, it is a bearish candle, but it's also indecision because the buyers were able to push above the highs, the sellers were able to push below the lows, but we didn't manage to get any direction. So although they are a bearish engulfing as the whole bar, there's still no confirmation of direction. If this had closed down there and it was an outside bar but bearish engulfing at the same time, that's much more of a strong signal. So all we got basically at this resistance was indecision, and then obviously they pushed up and we are pushing higher again. So potentially we're heading up to retest this area, and again this is just due to yen weakness. Euro is not particularly strong. It's fairly strong at the moment, temporarily, but it's not massively strong as a currency, and it's just yen weakness which is pushing it up. So again, shorts on it at any moment. It could just have a couple of 4-hour candles and you're out. That's all you need with any of these yens. You know, all these yens, they're finding it very hard. It's a struggle to push up, and then we get these pops back down, and it's, you know, it's like that's the kind of movement that we're getting on it at the moment. So they're all fairly, I think, safe to trade. It's just with this weakness in the yen, you could easily get squeezed. And if you don't quite get out on these pullbacks, which are very, very shallow a lot of the time, you're just going to get stuck on them. So I just don't like it because I can't gauge a bias on it at the minute on the yen. So yeah, so that's those. Hourlies, we've just got the pound yen, so it's the same thing, and the US dollar yen. Again, we know it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say these are extended. And we've got the Swiss yen, which has creeped in on the 14 RSI on the hourly. Again, that's extended very, very nicely on the 14. But again, Swiss yen, you know, it's kind of a long. So, you know, I like it short, counter trend, based on I'm expecting them to do something about this, but I just can't hop on a trend that's this extended when you've got the potential for them to do that. And the next time they do that, there's the potential for them to keep doing that. So that's what's worrying me about taking longs on these. When they do step in with intervention and actually sustain that intervention, the yen is going to get very, very, very strong. And it's sort of law, you know, the first time you get in and get on that trend extension, that's the one where they do it, and you just get stuffed on it. So it's just not worth the risk for me. There's plenty of other stuff out there to trade in a minute. So that's all the extensions covered. I hate you, DAX. Well, it's not DAX's fault. It's my fault this morning. But anyway. So yeah, it looks like we're not going anywhere this morning. Again, heading up to the highs, and then we're waiting for Jeremy Hunt. Market's unstable. Shalk, I'm risking 0.3 on US dollar yen short at this level. Target 145.15. It's difficult to pick a target in there, really. 145.15 somewhere in here, isn't it? So, yeah. It's a really nice risk reward trade, that, if you can get down there. There's no reason why it can't slam through all of this. This is where I would start to pay attention to this accumulation break there. That is where that move started from. So when we get down to there, we're likely to see some buyers stepping in, try and defend this, which is obviously this high here. So I would say 145.90 is a very good target for sure on that. And finally it will stop. So yeah, I mean, it's very good risk reward. Right. So that's all I've really got from extensions this morning. I'm going to whiz through all the pairs as well and have a look at all the pairs. But as I say, this morning is going to be focused purely on when Jeremy Hunt talks. The other thing you need to look at today is earnings. See what we've got coming up this week. Where are we? 17th. So we've got Bank of America today, Goldman Sachs, Johnson, Netflix. We've got Netflix from a NASDAQ perspective tomorrow. We've got Tesla on Wednesday, AT&T, Snap on Thursday, Amex and Schlumberger and Verizon on Friday. Next week is the big week for earnings. So obviously with this week, when the markets open, we've got pre-market and aftermarket news. So you need to be aware of what's coming out with these. Bad earnings obviously tends to create a selling frenzy in a stock, and some of these names, when you look at their percentage makeup on the NASDAQ, for example, are quite high. So if one of these big guys comes out with very negative earnings, it will tank the index. So you've got to be aware of these and when they're coming out. So you don't find out until after market, for example, on Netflix, and then the next day you will see that massive move start off the back of these. But be aware that obviously they can counteract each other as well. So if they come out with massive negative earnings and they come out with massive positive earnings, they will counter each other, which is why we see increased volatility during earnings fortnight, basically, because we've got these big boys all announcing their figures. So there's an awful lot more stock purchase and sales, which means that we get that extra volatility on the US indices. So, you know, when you're looking at the daily candles, when we have earnings, you see these much bigger candles coming out. When was the last earnings? It was July, August, September. No, August, September, October. Yeah, so we see these bigger volatility moves coming in. They're not actually that big actually at the moment, are they? Weren't there? But this quarter actually is the big one, isn't it? Because it's the one. It's the first one we've had since everything's gone completely south with interest rates and everything. So this is going to be an interesting one. But whether or not they're going to do well or not, we will find out. There's nothing we can do about it. It's just a case of we have to react to it. But be aware that we've got lots of volatility coming. Right, so I'm going to whiz through everything. So looking at the DAX, obviously we know the situation with this. We're in a massive bear market. As we know, we have tapped into those highs. So today, it's either going to go there or we're going to come and test these highs. I like it. I like the test of these highs again. I get the feeling we might have a little bit more of a push. We're in a bit of an accumulation at the minute. So hence my long bias on it this morning. Oh, you've done it as well. Look. So that was my trade where I fat fingered it twice. If I hadn't fat fingered it twice, I'd be there. Never mind. Right idea. Very poor execution. Calm. Right. Nasdaq, we obviously broke down through support. We broke down through support again. We've had a massive rejection down here, tried to push back down again, and we're basically just stuck at the minute. So with earnings coming out now, this thing could go either way. They'll all go the same way at varying degrees of speed. So there's a lot of rejection down at these lows. Yeah. So as you can see, we've got huge rejection on Thursday last week across the board. We took out the lows, pushed up. We took out the lows, pushed up. Friday threw a complete spanner in the works because we did a virtual reversal on all of it. So these two candles together are confusion. Yeah, we pushed up, we pulled back down again. Market hasn't got a clue. So it's waiting. We're waiting, basically. Nobody's doing any massive movements at the moment because obviously we need to know what's going to happen with all the earnings. So we'll see where we go from here. Typically, as I said, we get a rally into earnings because usually companies are reporting good figures. That's what they're there for. That's why the S&P goes up most of the time and all the indices go up, because we're based on earnings of businesses, and obviously their job is to please their shareholders, which is to provide profit reports. So it'll be interesting to see if that actually changes. But I'm a little bullish at the minute across all the indices, and potentially looking for a challenge of the 72 initially, but very difficult to tell at the moment. So all of them rejected the lows. So we have to say down here, it looks as if buyers are stepping in a little bit at the minute and trying to take control. So that would make sense. Gold, just carrying on to the downside. So any pops you see on gold, worth a short at the moment based on US dollar strength. Oil, I got out of my oil last week. You can see that you just about see the trade in there. There you go. Oops. So I got out of oil up here. We started rejecting these highs, and then it came down very, very fast. Back down into these lows. And again, we've rejected those lows and gone nowhere so far. So again, oil, very little strength or weakness towards the back end of last week. No real indication of which way it's going. Potentially, we could get a deeper pullback on this. I like it as we've broken that high as a pullback long, which is why I started getting into these longs. I got the feeling I was in a little bit early on this bounce, and I'm glad I got out. But equally, we've just tapped straight into the 50% of that move. And obviously, as we can see, they're starting to buy it up. So we'll have to wait and see. Oil-wise, obviously, the only news we've got on oil this week is the barrel counts, which is on... Have they moved this to a Thursday now? Usually on a Wednesday. Yeah, it's back to Wednesday. I don't know why it was... Oh, we had a bank holiday, didn't we? That's why last Thursday. Yeah, that was why it was Thursday last week. So Wednesday, 3:30 is always crude oil inventories. Last one we had was 9.9. What it should have done is driven prices up. What it did was it afterwards. So, again, you can't really take... Inventories at the moment don't seem to be having an awful lot of impact on what's happening with oil. But I like it long. I really like it long at the moment, oil. So I'm tempted to get back in, but I'm going to leave it just for the moment because I've got my pound on, which obviously I need to be dealing with. So, but yeah, I would be looking for long opportunities on that. And challenge-wise, for obviously these highs initially, and then we need to take these highs out. So that would give us bigger structure break. So initially we've just taken these highs, which is great. So high, higher low, need to be putting in a higher high. That would be your ultimate target really for the trade, and obviously getting out somewhere up there as well. But yeah, looks good. Aussie CAD short. Obviously I took that counter trend long, didn't like it, got out of it. Glad I did, but I wouldn't be looking to short it down here. It's a bit too low. I want to short it up here though, if we get up there. Aussie Swiss, same sort of thing, looking for short opportunities on it if we can get any pullbacks. Hourly 14 RSI, there was one there. Aussie Swiss last week, beautiful reversal alert on the hourly, played out very nicely, came back and retested as well, then dropped. So lovely short opportunity on that one. Aussie yen, don't know what's going on with these yens at all. So the Aussies and the New Zealands, with all of these, you've got to be aware, obviously, of what is happening to the news tonight and tomorrow morning. So monetary policy meeting minutes for the Aussie tomorrow morning, and then you've got CPI after the market closes tonight. So these two obviously are going to have a massive impact on all the Aussie and the New Zealand pairs. So anything you're getting into or you're in on these at the moment, you're down to wait and see what happens with the inflation figures for New Zealand first of all. Steve, DE40 went all the way back up. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I was long from here, but I screwed up. This is the thing, EAs are only as good as the idiot running the EA. If you're an idiot, you're still going to have bad trades. No matter how clear and concise and perfectly executed your trade is, it's all down to the idiot sitting in the chair. I don't want to look at it anymore. Just going to annoy me. Again, it's also put me back 2.5%, which I've got to get back now. But I'm not going to revenge trade. Yeah, so Aussie yen, very, very difficult decision to make on this one. I don't like any of these Aussie pairs against the yen pairs at the moment because they're all in the Asian area. They're all kind of very close trade partners and all kind of have an impact on each other. You're much better trading something European or US against the yen, I think. Very choppy, but at the moment, obviously, the Australian dollar is very, very weak. And for it to drop against something like the yen just shows you how weak the Australian dollar is. But that could all change tomorrow morning with the monetary policy meeting minutes as to what they're going to do. So this time round, they decided not to increase their interest rates by 0.5%. Chancellor emergency statement. So it's just seen on the news. Just wanted to see if it was going to say, but it didn't say what time. So they could come out in the monetary policy meeting minutes and indicate as to what they're going to do future with interest rates. So they may come out and say, we see a bigger requirement for higher rates, in which case the market will probably act positively to that because they underdid the rates this time round. So next time it will bolster the New Zealand. So the Aussie. So we could see a decent move on the Aussie pairs tomorrow morning. Aussie New Zealand, I've got my long on, just in accumulation, waiting for New Zealand interest rates, but looking for Aussie to be bigger and stronger than New Zealand, based on obviously trend continuation, and Aussie US short. But again, want to get into it, can't get into it. All it's doing is it's not giving any pullbacks at the moment. We're just literally push, accumulate, push, accumulate. So hourly RSI extensions to the upside on this one, on the 14. If you can get up here, those are your shorts. So just looking for some opportunity to get in short on it, really. Any ADR hits to the upside, good opportunities for shorts. Any RSI extensions on the upside on the 14 hourly, on these strong trending pairs, good opportunities to gain short. CAD Swiss sideways at the moment. So we've got a strongish CAD, or CAD which is strengthening. It has been very weak. So I'm just later this morning. Still says later this morning. There's no time. It doesn't look like there's any time on this announcement. Reveal tax and spending plans to the MPs this afternoon. Medium-term fiscal plan. Commons statement is due at 3:30 p.m. UK time. But he's going to release a statement this morning. Okay, so it looks like this morning we've got a statement. This afternoon he's releasing the plans to government. So it might not be until sort of 3:30 this afternoon is when it's going to be released. It's so bloody woolly all the time, isn't it? I wish they'd just tell us what they're actually going to do when they're going to do it. Be nice. CAD Swiss. We're contracting at the moment. Obviously, at the minute, downtrend. Canadian dollar strengthening a little bit off the back of oil prices strengthening a little bit. The Swiss franc is very erratic at the minute, but it has strengthened. Obviously, it's doing really well on its interest rates. It's doing really, really well on inflation. Not quite as well as it thought it was in the last one, but obviously every time we get some news on the Swissy, it generally powers up. So hence we've had a fairly decent run on it, but that doesn't mean it's going to go that way over the next sort of few weeks. So at the minute, we are just sort of contracting down there. No real direction, no real extensions in either way. I don't have a bias on this, really. It's kind of that sort of bias at the moment on these two. So it's difficult to really pick a direction on it, on any of these. And as I say, we're just going sideways. So at the minute, while you're in this range, any kind of movements sort of towards the downsides on either of these extremes. So if we get down to here, you could look at longing it back up into the highs and up to the highs, looking at long it down there at the minute. Overall trend though is short, so that would have been the one that I would have been more interested in taking. That was your entry on this one here. First pull back to the 24. But as you see, it didn't get very far. So strong against strong, sideways. That's what we've got at the moment with that one. So no real opportunities on it. CAD yen, again, take your pick on the yens. Really difficult to pick a direction on it. It's just all over the place. This one, like with the Swiss yen, they are both still bullish, but you can see how much weaker this is compared to a lot of the other yen pairs. So the Canadian dollar's just not had a great time of it recently. We've got no CAD news. Yes, we have. We've got the CPI, haven't we, on Wednesday? So that's all going to change on Wednesday. We'll see what happens with these figures. We could well have a very big push. They're forecasting a drop back down to 0. If that comes out as a positive, we will have a big move on this one. So good opportunity potentially for longs on the CAD. But yeah, equally, this could come out at any time and flatten that. So just don't like it. Either of these. I just don't like anything against the yen at the minute. It's all so undecided. Yeah, this huge intervention. That was also the Swiss franc news being released at the same time. Literally, the market's got no clue what to do with it at the moment. You know, we get these occasional pushes and then we just go into these horrible sideways movements. You know, so it's just hard. I'm just staying out of them. But if you want to trade the yen, literally every single pair is massively trending to the upside. Virtually all of them, aren't they? So you can pick a directional bias. It's up to you on it. Obviously, the market is long everything, but just be aware that there's any kind of intervention at any point that could just flip overnight and suddenly become a short. So just got to be careful with them. This is the sort of thing, you know, when you're adapting to market conditions, this is the sort of thing you have to say, right, well, I'm only going to trade it with a stop. And I'm just going to go for longs on it with a stop, and take those types of trades and just, you know, change your mind when we get some clear direction on these. But at the moment, I'm short on all yen pairs. So yeah, all these yens, euro yen as well, the same. Look for double top bounces, reversal alerts at the highs on lower time frames. Trend direction on this one is just chop, isn't it? The pound yen, very much the same. Chop. Ignore this area here, but you know, we're just chopping. No directional bias. Weak against weak is sideways. I'm not going to bother with these bots anymore. I've given up reporting them. It doesn't do anything, does it? give up. Pound New Zealand, New Zealand dollar yen, sideways. Yeah, it's all sideways. We have this massive drop off with the New Zealand dollar, the huge New Zealand dollar weakness. They put their rates up, market reacted positively to it, and we've got the CPI figures. If the CPI figures come out positive, we should have a really nice rally off of this. So it's a nice looking long opportunity at the moment, potentially. But again, you could go either way. You know, these pairs are just undecided. It's a week against a week, and obviously US dollar yen is a massive strong against a massive weak. So this is going off the charts. But again, this is the one that the Bank of Japan look at, because a lot of Japanese trade is done. So I just seen Liz Truss on telly. That's just a replay. A lot of the trade is done between US dollar and Japan. So this is the one that is really hurting Japan at the moment. Whenever they're exporting anything to the US and this thing's going like that, it's becoming more and more difficult for them to make profit on their trade. And their hedges have to become bigger. Their risk has to become bigger whenever they do any transactions with the US. So this is what they're watching. When this gets to a certain point, there will just be a kick in automatically. I would say 150 is probably, I mean, we're very, very close. It's within kind of an ADR, pretty much. So 150 ADR move to the upside, we're hitting that 150 level. If we get to that as a psychological point, I think that's a really good short opportunity, because the Bank of Japan will be watching closely, and they keep saying they're watching closely. But if they're going to intervene, you know, it's going to be at a point where we get to a psychological number, like they called 145 before, didn't they? 135 they called, didn't they? Yeah. And then we got that. You know, so you get these psychological levels where they call it and they go, no. Was it one? It was 135. I'm pretty sure it was 135, wasn't it? No. No, it must have been 140. I can't remember. But anyway, there was a level they called and said something, and then it reacted. But yeah, so 150 is where we're looking at as our next sort of psychological stop on that, and then we'll have a load of people selling out at 150. So euro odd, going through the euro pairs. So euro at the moment, again, we've had a lot of strength or perceived strength on these euro pairs, which is really actually Australian dollar weakness. Yeah, this euro isn't massively strong. The Aussie is massively weak. The Canadian dollar has been fairly weak, although that is obviously sorted itself out now. The Swiss franc is obviously still strong. We've got to sell on that one at the minute. Pound has been weak. Obviously, we know about the yen. The New Zealand has been massively weak. The US dollar obviously is very, very strong. So when you want to gauge how strong a currency is, you always look at the US dollar, which is at the moment very strong, or the strongest of the bunch. You can see that is really as strong as the euro got. And now it's back business as usual. So there isn't really any strength in the euro. It's just an illusion because all the other pairs are ridiculously strong, all the other currencies. So these will obviously depend on what's happening with the Australian dollar. At the moment, it's weak, but I would suspect that is going to strengthen up, and likely off the back of the New Zealand dollar rates and obviously the monetary policy, which we've got tomorrow morning. So this is probably a good spot to start looking at euros. We're not quite extended on the 4 hour. Hourly, we were extended on Friday, and it's just started to roll over now. I've got a Euro Swiss short on at the moment. But any of these euros, they're all getting up to fairly decent spots. They've been embedded for a while, so we're just waiting for some strength to come through on the other currencies at the moment, and then we should start that sell cycle coming in. Very nicely extended away from 24. So any big strong pushes, you're going to get those profit take moves on them. At the moment, obviously, it's just continuing to push to the upside. So from a trend perspective, we've broken above these highs. So we've got a clear pullback at some point if we are going to continue to the upside, and that's all going to depend on whether or not the Australian dollar is weak. Expert Lane proposed 78 basis point hike. 78? Or 75? Sorry, I misread that. 75 basis point hike in the upcoming council meetings. So they're looking at, there you go. So they're looking at higher rates while we're talking about the euro. Thank you, Lane. So that could well be, more positive for the euro, but it doesn't mean that the euro economy is going to start to recover. Everybody is still in the same boat. It's all still very, very dire, and it's the battle of the weaker currency against the stronger currency. So if the Aussies come out with their monetary policy tomorrow morning, monetary policy meeting minutes tomorrow morning, and it's a load of bullish stuff in there, we'll have a move to the downside on this, regardless of what they say is going to happen to the euro. But at the moment, you have to say, euro is bullish. So we should really be looking for long opportunities potentially on these euros from a trend perspective against the Aussie. So unless anything changes on the Aussie, that's a long. But I'd much rather mean revert this personally, because I think there's more chance of the euro weakening and the Aussie strengthening. But it's got way ahead of where I was expecting it to get to. Technically, we've got this support resistance area here, which we've tapped into. We had a little bounce, we've broken above. So not really any kind of resistance there. So the next stops we've got to look at really are going to be up in these highs, which is a long, long, long way away. There's nothing here really to stop price just continuing to do what it's doing. So unless we get any fundamental shifts, difficult to say anything but long on that. We'll have to just wait and see. Euro CAD, if the US dollar continues to strengthen, we will get, I think, a continuation back down to the downside on this. We're just popping our head above the parapet at the moment, a little bit higher than we have, because that euro strength happened to coincide with that Canadian weakness. So obviously we managed to get a little bit further ahead, but fundamentally the Canadian dollar should beat the euro down. So looking for continuation moves to the downside on this, just not getting any extensions. So that was the short opportunity here. That was your entry, second entry and exit. Since then, we are just kind of going sideways. So again, any hourly extensions to the upside on this, you can take, and you should be able to get enough movement to the downside to get out of them. So I'm running, I don't think I'm running EuroCAD. Where am I? I can't remember. Can't remember what I got the EA to run, but yeah, I mean, any shorts opportunities on this, especially if we get up to ADR. If we come up and retest these areas to the high, that'd be a lovely little short opportunity there. But yeah, shorts on EuroCAD, Euro Swiss, same thing. I mean, this one already short, as you can see. So I've taken any extensions to the upside on this. And again, we had that temporary weakness on the euro, on the Swissy, which got undone. So M pattern reversal, continuation to the downside. And again, we're just doing this at the minute. Yeah. So just there's no reason why the Swiss franc shouldn't outperform the euro. So I'm short on that. Euro pound, no idea. It's just a horrible mess. It's just a mess. One of my mentors from years ago just said to me, if you open up a chart and you look at it and you go, I haven't got a clue, move on. I haven't got a clue. Moving on. You're in New Zealand, very strong trender, but if you look at the price action in here, it's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So much movement on this pair at the minute. If you can get an extension on it, you're pretty much guaranteed an out as a scalp. So any extensions on RSI on the hourly are good opportunities. I like it, kind of like it short. We are extended to the upside. Tomorrow morning is this evening is going to be the key decider on this one, depending on what happens with inflation. So we're either going to get that or that. So you'll be able to see, tonight what the market thinks of the inflation figures in New Zealand. I get a feeling they might be positive and we might get a decent move to the downside. We're just about to get a 4-hour reversal, literally just about to trigger when this candle closes. Hourly, we've just had one this morning on that big bearish engulfing. So looking good, at least for a move down to there. But again, it's waiting on the news. As you can see, we're just waiting on the news at the moment. They've cleared the decks to the upside. Anybody that has shorted it is out of the market. Anybody that longed it was out of the market. So Friday, basically, they took both directions completely. So decks are cleared, pull back into the middle, and then move New Zealand dollar. Obviously, the news is going to decide which way it goes. But from a trade perspective, obviously, this one at the moment is a long. But again, look at this price action. After you get these big, strong moves in one direction, you get these big undoings. Big, strong move, big undoing, big, strong move, big undoing. So more likely, if we get a break, we're going to break down to the downside. How long it will last, don't know. Again, yeah, this is weak. We know the euro's weak. So when the New Zealand dollar powers up, i.e. good interest rate figures, whatever, it will push New Zealand dollar down. Then we get some negative news on the New Zealand, and it goes like that. Positive news, New Zealand, negative news. And that is what is pushing and driving all these euro pairs at the moment, is what's happening to the other currency, because the euro's still fairly flatlined, although it's kind of a little bit more bullish now because they've started interest rate rises. But yeah, it's all based on what's happening with the other currency. So if we get decent movement out of that news, look for pullbacks to short. But obviously you're not going to find out until market's closed. And be careful with this as well, because there's very light liquidity on New Zealand dollar pairs at the beginning of the Asian session. So you'll get a lot of slippage as well. So this is why we find we get these big moves on the New Zealand dollar, because they release their news when there's very little European and US liquidity in the market. So we get these big slips. So be aware of that one. That's look up at the highs. Yeah, we're not going anywhere. We're waiting for Mr. Hunt. Mr. Hunt, not Ethan Hunt. It's not a Mission Impossible. Well, it is Mission Impossible as far as he's concerned. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be very good to trade this morning. Euro US shorts, again, dropping down. I've got this running on the VPS with the EA. Yeah, it kind of is Mission Impossible for Mr. Hunt. So I've got the EA running, waiting for an extension above on the hourly 14, and then I'll be getting into this short. At the moment, though, again, we are on day 1, 2, 3, 4, cleared decks, 5 of going sideways. No direction whatsoever. But they have cleared the decks to the downside, they've cleared the decks to the upside, and they've returned back into the middle. So we're getting ready. Everything seems, at the minute, we are bubbling. We're waiting for the price to move in one direction or the other, but we haven't got any indications of which way it's going to go. It literally is a coin flip. This is why it's such a dangerous time to be trading at the moment, because you just don't know which way anything's going to go, and it is literally based more on this now than it is on any scheduled news. So that's Euro US dollar. The pound, obviously, all of these pounds are going to whiz through these fast, because it's completely down to what Jeremy Hunt says today as to what the market decides it likes about his statement today. So a lot of these overshot. So you know where we are with the pound US dollar, which is what I said this morning. You know, this is where we were before all of this chaos kicked in, and we've returned back to where we were because we've got a fairly strong US dollar fighting against what was a fairly strong pullback on the pound. when this pullback started on the pound, we had a lot of pairs being incredibly weak at that time. And obviously what that's caused is a massive rally against that weakness, because we had a lot of money coming into the US and it just pushed straight through and back out the other side. So very difficult to tell what's going to happen with these. But regardless of what happens with the Australian dollar, what happens with Jeremy Hunt today is going to decide on whether this thing in the next couple of days moves up or down fast. And it may go nowhere. You know, don't forget, there is the other side of the coin where he announces what everybody is suspecting, and that is we are scrapping everything that we put into place and we are going to go back to X, Y, and Z, which was just, you know, the pound not having a really clear direction out of it. So it's very difficult. I don't know what he's going to say or what he's going to decide. I suspect instead of taxation being reduced, it will be increased. And the plans to grow the economy through investment is just not realistic at the moment. So I think that's all going to be kind of covered and unraveled. So I'm really not sure as to which way it's going to go. The market could react very positively to it, but it could also act very negatively to it. But either way, I don't think we're not going to see this sort of movement. I don't think this was completely unexpected. What we're expecting is somebody to come in rational now, and yeah, we'll have either a move like that or like that. Probably get an ADR hit on it today, maybe a couple of hundred ADR. But that's really the extreme I think we'll go to today. But no idea which direction. So you have to say at the moment the pound is weaker than the Australian dollar, and we've got potential for the Aussie to power up tomorrow morning. So if we get a weak pound today and the Aussie monetary policy comes out as bullish, we're off. I've got to be bearish on the pound just because I live in the UK, and it gives you that extra stance and extra vision as to what is actually going on in this country and how screwed we are at the moment. I don't think there's a monetary policy that could be put in place to help the pound recover at any rate of knots. And I think we're heading for parity still on pound US dollar. So that one, who's moved my line? That's where I think we are heading for over the next X weeks, months. And if they carry on doing stupid things, maybe in a couple of days, who knows? But all these pounds, same sort of thing. Pound CAD strong. So pound CAD and pound US both should be way stronger than pound. So we should see some downward momentum. This is obviously shot over. We've had weak oil prices. The Canadian dollar has been fairly weak. So we've had this bit of extra movement. We have got potential resistance coming up. There's a couple of resistance levels coming up fairly soon that if we do get up to those, we get a reaction at. And don't forget, obviously, the move that we do get today isn't necessarily what is going to be. So if we get this sudden movement to the upside, doesn't mean that the pound is going to strengthen. It means that they are moving up for a reason, and it could well be to reverse it. Yeah. So just everything you'd see on the pound today, pinch of salt time. Pound Swiss, I'm short. Again, Swiss franc, very strong. The Swiss banking system is very robust, and their economy is it's a very, very, very robust currency. Unless something comes out, as I say, that it's going to be massively bullish on the pound, we're looking for opportunities for shorts. Nicely extended, nice entry at the 72. Looking for a big drop on this one. Pound yen, same thing. Don't know. Pound New Zealand, same as the pound odd. Except it's been a little bit stronger recently, the pound New Zealand. But there's not a lot of difference between these two. Whenever you're trading an Australian dollar or a New Zealand dollar pair, you kind of need to treat them as they are very, very similar. It's the same thing. So get into one or the other. Don't try and overexpose yourself on them. But at the moment, it's looking like we're wanting to potentially reverse. But again, this is all going to be based on what happens with the New Zealand interest rates tomorrow morning or later this evening. and obviously what says Jeremy Hunt today. So again, just no point in really speculating on any of these at the moment. I'm in this one short, and obviously this is the stronger of the lot because it's the US dollar. But no idea really where we're going to go today. That's the sort of movement I want to see though. More of that. Still no clues as to what time it's coming out. Just going to see if there's what time is Jeremy Hunt's announcement today. I'm on one of these websites with ads that just flick around all over the place. It has been announced that it will be delivered at 11 a.m. Right, followed by an address at 3:30. Okay, so it's 11 o'clock. The pound, so an hour and a half. So that's the forecast anyway. So I'll be watching that. That's kind of where I think we could possibly get to before that announcement. They may well come down and sort this before the announcement, which is a fair old move, obviously. But that's kind of what my plan is on. This is why I took this aggressive position as we pushed up. I was looking for them to come down this morning and get this gap filled. So that's kind of what I'm looking for ahead of the news. If we can get down to there, this sort of movement ready for the announcement would be pretty spot on. They just said 12:30 on the BBC. Just this morning again. Unclear. So yeah, pound US dollar. I like it short. I just got caught on this spike and didn't manage to get out of it, unfortunately, which is why I've got the drawdown at the minute on it. So yeah, looking for shorts on that one. Well, I am short on it, but I'd be getting short on it anyway. Even if it's good news for the pound, it's not going to be good enough to beat the US dollar. New Zealand dollar CAD is an obvious short. So again, dropping down to the hourly, looking for extensions above the RSI 14 for entries in the trend. So nothing at the moment. Got very close on Friday. I'm personally using 75 as my entry with the EA, not 70. So there's very little difference between them. You'll miss some if you don't use 70, but then again, on some of these, you'll be squeezed for 3/4 of an ADR before you actually get the move starting, which is why I think 75 is kind of a better level. But yeah, looking for shorts on New Zealand dollar CAD at the moment. But obviously, again, I will adjust the EA tomorrow morning, and if I've suddenly got a different bias on the New Zealand dollar, then I might change some of those. But at the minute, yeah, shorts against the Canadian dollar. New Zealand Swiss, again, short. Swiss franc, very, very strong. Any kind of pullbacks on this, again, dropping down to the hourly, looking for RSI extensions on the hourly, 14, like that, and then getting down onto M5 and taking the reverse alerts on M5 to get into the positions. Shorts. But at the moment, we are just sideways. So yeah, prime example here of the two different types of pullbacks, moving averages. You get the pullback into the moving average and then the drop, or you get the accumulation, wait for the moving average to come down on top of you and then drive price lower. So looking for that accumulation break to the downside. New Zealand dollar yen, again, don't know, covered it already. New Zealand dollar US dollar, shorts still. We could well obviously get a push on the interest rates, on the inflation figures, which will only be temporary. So if we get a push up into this area and get extended, we'll be waiting for the next US dollar news to push that back down again. And all the US dollar pairs, so still long everything US dollar at the minute. It's the better of the bunch, which are all bad. At the moment, the Fed is still not doing great, coming under a lot of fire. They're thinking of printing more money. It's all the same sort of stuff that they do in the US, but they will still come out on top against the vast majority of other currencies, just because they are the bigger economy. They're the world's currency. Everybody transacts in it. So therefore, it's always got that little bit extra strength. So especially at the moment where we've got so many weak currencies, you really want to be long, looking for long opportunities on everything US dollar at the minute. So CAD, Swiss and Yen, all longs. Any kind of pullbacks again, looking for those opportunities to get into long positions, but just not giving us any at the moment. Same with the US dollar Swiss. This one's a little bit messier because of the Swiss franc strength. You get these massive Swiss franc pushes, which obviously makes for a good short opportunity as well. But still longs overall, still expected to come out on top. And the US dollar yen, obviously, we know about. But I wouldn't want to take any trades on this one personally at the moment. But anyway, so yeah, little confusion. It seems at the minute we're just kind of looking for those news events, which is the only thing really that is of interest. Is what news have we got coming up? Because at the minute, what's on this calendar and what pops up in red on here is what's driving the market. The biases are changing so often based on what is going on with fiscal policies and fundamentals, and obviously what's going on in Ukraine. You know, you just got to think, I'm going to take a bias of X direction, and the vast majority of the time at the moment, and the vast majority of the pairs at the moment, you can literally use the daily trend as the main indicator at the minute, because that is what is driving short term. There is no long term outlook on anything at the minute. You know, normally we're looking sort of the quarterly, the yearly, the overall directions of things. At the minute, things flip so fast, which is why I'm dropping down onto H1 and looking at the 14 RSIs and getting on the 5 minutes, because I just want to take advantage of these sorts of things. Yeah, that's all just in, out, 0.5% done as fast as possible. But sticking in line with obviously where everything's currently going. So that's it for me at the moment. That really annoyed me this morning. Okay. Right idea, wrong execution this morning, unfortunately. That was a lovely trade. That was absolutely perfect entry. But fat fingered it. Didn't have the EA set up properly. It's because I haven't been running the EA account for the last week, because I've been sitting on the money waiting to pull it out. But never mind. So this morning on the DAX, I'm not going to trade it anymore this morning. I really don't know where we're going to go. This will move on the pound. So everything will move on the pound this morning, because money will be pulled in and out of the pound and repositioned as he talks. So you're going to get volatility across the board this morning, the DAX included. So if I see some really strong movement on the DAX, I might well jump into it, but obviously with a fairly decent stop, wide stop, because you get a lot of like big, strong push and then a big pullback into it. That's where I want to get in. Oil's tanking, is it? Yeah. What's going on there? Don't know what that is. Yeah, oil's just tanking. So last week's low is potentially first stop for a buy, but that's a very strong move, isn't it? So if you look at the market structure on it at the moment, obviously we've got high, low, high, low. If that's going to be the high, that's a bit of a small pullback to put a new low in, but this is where we want to be concentrating. ADR, getting ADR hit to the downside today, and this is going long. And of course, these are all ifs and buts. It always is ifs and buts, isn't it? And no one knows where anything's going. But if this is going to be a continuation long, this is where we should be interested in getting in. You literally just closed it out because you didn't like it for a tiny profit. Yeah. At the moment, that is exactly the right thing to do. And that's exactly what I did with this oil. I mean, this wasn't a tiny profit. It wasn't a big profit, but I'm not interested in, I think oil is going to do that. Yeah. I'm not interested in capturing that. I'm interested in capturing something if I'm right on that direction. Because at the moment, you can't have that outlook that long. There is no outlook that long at the minute. It's too jittery. The market is just too jittery. This fear and greed index, I've never seen it stuck. Have I got one? I've got to go back a while. I haven't seen the fear and greed index stuck here for quite such a long time. I don't think ever. We don't get out of here very often, and if we do, we're only really getting here. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw a neutral or a greed. I mean, I can't remember that, but last time I saw a neutral, I can't remember. I don't pay much attention to it, but you can tell when you look at the charts all the time. You can tell because what you see is a lot of this. People call it the market's jittery. That's this. This is the market being jittery. They're scared, and the movements are like volatile because people are doing exactly what you and I are doing. Everybody's doing. We're getting in, and we're getting out fast, and it causes a lot more shorter term volatility rather than the big smooth moves that we get when we're being greedy, because we know that we've got much more chance of something doing something when we've got stability everywhere. There is no stability in interest rates. There's no stability in inflation. There's no stability in the war in Ukraine. There's no stability in all the jostling we've got with Japan and Korea and China and Taiwan. There's no stability anywhere at the moment, which causes this. But everybody's still got to make money. So you've still got to be in the market. It's just you can't stay in the market and go for those runs. So the oil trade is a prime example of that. If I'm expecting this to be the peak formation low, you usually get into a lovely big swing trade, and you're going to hold it until the highs. Yeah, that's where you think it's going to go. Because if you think it's going to make a new high, new market structure, it's going to put in a higher high, isn't it? So we know it's going to get up to there. Worst case scenario, it won't make it, and it will double top and bounce. At the moment, I'm not even interested in that because there's just no certainty anywhere. So you've got to be in fast and out fast, and the lower time frames is the way that you do that. But you need an idea of which direction you should be in. And at the moment, as I say, you look at this, and this is why it's so important to use multi-time frame analysis. You look at this and you go, it's a short, and you go, actually, is it a short? Yeah, and, you stick your fib on this, and actually what we're doing is we're bouncing at the 61.871 area. It's never exact. It's this roughly area is where we would pull back to make a new high. But you can't. You go to different time frames and you see something different again. But you've got to concentrate on a time frame for a directional bias, a time frame to find opportunities where the market is extended in the way that you want to get in, or you want to buy the lows if you're long, or you want to sell the highs if you're short. And then you look for a signal when that condition is met to enter the market. That's all you can do. We're just testing the lows, yesterday's low, Friday's low, minute. But yeah, very tricky. A minute. Everywhere. So it looks like 11 o'clock. The Commons statement. So the Commons statement is at 3:30. Whether or not he's releasing all that information to general populous this morning, or whether he's announcing his guideline and then he's releasing it at 3:30. I don't know. It's very woolly as to exactly what he's going to say and when. But he's definitely doing the members of parliament at 3:30. So if we get the 11 o'clock announcement, the 11 o'clock announcement outlines the entire fiscal policy, we'll have to move this morning. If the announcement this morning is that he's going to announce in detail this afternoon, we'll get the move this afternoon. So we need to just wait and see on a timings perspective. So you're just not interested, is it, this morning? London. So that's a new London low put in. But we haven't broken outside the Asian session yet. So I think it's unfortunately watch things go up and down this morning, and then have a better idea this afternoon. But yeah, so that's all I've got on at the minute. I'm going to say this isn't all going to move. Pound Swiss is doing nicely actually. So in profit on the Pound Swiss now. But again, this is all going to be jumping up and down this morning. Nothing really going anywhere. So I'm just going to sit and watch. I got that tiny little loss this morning from an aggressive position, but I'm not going to trade anymore. This is just a mess now. Look. All right. So I'll post in the Telegram group if I'm taking anything. More likely taking anything off, based on the pound. So I'll post in the Telegram group if there's anything new. The EA is set up to get me into positions automatically anyway on the pairs that I'm monitoring. So if there's any new trades, I'll let you know. But other than that, it's just a case of sitting and waiting this morning, unfortunately. And we will see where we get to. But pound is 12p off of parity. And parity is miles away. It's obviously the long drop that is still, but that's overall where I see us if there's no real change any time up to Christmas, really. So we'll see. Hunt is either going to help me or not help me this morning, and we'll see what happens. But right, so I'll call it a day there, and I'll be back tomorrow morning 7:50. Anything you need, come in the Telegram group. We'll be in there. And yeah, good luck today. If you're going to get into any positions, or you want to get into any positions on the pound, obviously do it before the announcement, and try and get your stops as close to break even as you can if you're in. And there's a good chance to have one of these days. Yeah. So announcements like this are the ones that make those big moves, and those big moves are the ones where you can make your month. So if you're going to get into any of them, good luck. Pick a direction, flip a coin, ask your dog, whatever you want to do to make your decisions. But don't rely on anybody at the minute, because it could go either way. All right, I'll see you in the morning. If you need anything, come in the Telegram group. Otherwise, have a good day.